The Real Show is brought to you by UCS Facility Management Limited, Omni Basic Bank, and Dewdrop Hand Sanitizer.
Welcome back to The Real Show, and we are just about to start the second segment of the show. If you just tuned in, stick with us. You're about to have a great time. And my next guest is an amazing author. But before we go into details, let's have a look at this introductory video.
They are storytellers. They think through their fingers and change the world into words. They serve experiences to your mind's eye. They run your imagination wild and move your mind into another dimension. J.K. Rowling created Hogwarts, and George R.R. Martin gave us Westeros. Novelists are authors or writers of novels. They often write in other genres of both fiction and non-fiction. Bisi Adjapong is a novelist and the author of The Teller of Secrets, originally titled Of Women and Frogs, forthcoming from HarperCollins in November 16. Bisi has written for and been featured in many publications, including Maxwell's Quarterly, Washington Times, Washington Post, Al Jazeera, and the New York Times. She founded and ran the Young Shakespeare Company for 4 years in America, and as an international affairs specialist for the U.S. Foreign Service, she won the Civil Rights Award for Human Relations. She is a phenomenal woman, phenomenally. Welcome, Bisi.
Welcome, Bisi Adjapong. I love the pink. You're looking all bright tonight.
Thank you. So are you. I love your outfit.
Oh, thank you. Now tell us about yourself. What you love to do aside the writing?
I love to play tennis.
Ooh.
I'm a tennis enthusiast. I think I play tennis almost every day.
Wow.
And I also love to read, and of course I love to dance.
Wow, the last thing I would have guessed is that you're probably athletic or loved to play games.
Oh my goodness, why? Why would you
Because you're
think
so
that?
calm.
See me on the tennis court, I'm not calm at all.
Oh, wow. Well, tell us how you started writing. What got you into writing in the first place?
Honestly, I've been writing all my life. I mean, I just love to write, you know. So even as a child, I was always writing little stories. But publication, of course, is a different thing.
Okay.
To become published.
Yeah.
That's when people recognize you as a writer. But if you're somebody who likes writing, you're always writing. So yeah, I was always writing. And so as far as publication goes, that came much, much later in life, you know.
Right.
So
You've always had the passion to write.
Oh yes.
And
in fact, in class, I kept a diary, and I was like the class recorder. I cartooned my teachers, and I wrote about them. So every single day, I would write a report about what happened, and while the teacher was teaching, we'd be passing around my diary. So while people kept diaries to write, you know, love and romance and stuff like that, mine was just writing and making fun of everything that happened that day. So I would just, you know, write things about my teachers, write things about my friends. If you were unfortunate enough to say pass gas or something, everybody would hear about it because I would write it and describe it in detail and pass it around. So, and I remember when I was 15 years old, in Wesley Girls, we used to have a play competition, and I wrote my class play, and we actually won.
Wow.
So, yeah, we won. We won the, you know, it was a school thing. Every class had to produce a play, and our play won. And ours was the only one that year that was written by a student. So,
wow, yeah. That is amazing. But did you always know you wanted to be a novelist, like know exactly what you want to write? Or that came along the way? No,
I think writing is just so, most people write more than one genre. So you write novels, you write plays, you write poetry, you write essays. So I never really thought about writing a novel per se. I always thought I'd be a magazine owner, and I would maybe publish something where people would write love stories, and I would write columns and write essays and make, you know, write humorous things to make people laugh. That's what I thought I was going to do. And even now when I write novels, I try to think of making people, laugh. But yeah, I love
I think
writing.
you just love to see people laugh then.
Yeah, I like to see people happy, like you. You're smiling right now.
Thank you.
That's
You're making me
good.
happy, so I guess you're doing the magic.
Yeah.
But what inspired the story, or what inspired you to write the book of Women and Frogs? And what is it about?
Yes. I'm actually going to indict you because I just found out they haven't even read the book.
Oh, because you didn't give us a copy.
Billy has a copy.
Yes, unfortunately, we don't have Billy
If
around.
I had known,
Yeah.
I would have given you a copy.
Yes, and then we need our readers to know, even if I read, we still want our readers to hear from you because they have the chance to watch the real show and have the host himself here. So they want to hear from the horse's own mouth, if I should say. Yes.
Well, that's okay. If you haven't read it, I know you're going to read it. So you're forgiven.
And I know you give me a copy, right?
I don't have one because it's coming out November 16th.
Oh.
Because what happened was that it was first published in Nigeria.
Okay.
And HarperCollins from the USA bought rights to it, which meant that the Nigerian publisher no longer had a right to keep printing copies.
Exactly.
So right now, it's if you're lucky, you might find one at Vidia store. I myself gave my last copy away. 2 days ago, somebody visited
Well,
me.
that's not a problem because you're here. And after you tell us a bit about it, what inspired it, we are definitely going to wait for when we can get it again.
Yes, it will be out November 16th. I know that many bookstores have already pre-ordered. So,
Great.
yeah, you get copies. Yeah.
What inspired you to write it?
So, I really, to be honest with you, the book came as an accident. I always feel like such a fraud when people ask what inspired you. People always imagine an author is sitting somewhere in a lofty face and you are in a trance and you get hit by inspiration that comes from heaven
So
or
dramatic,
something.
huh?
You just start typing away. Oh no, nothing of the sort. I actually wanted to write a different story. And I wanted to write about immigration in America. Wow. And when I finished the book, which was way back in 2012, nobody wanted it. At that time, nobody was interested in the subject of immigration. So it was rejected by everybody. Wow. And I just put it aside somewhere and forgot all about it. But then there was a Nigerian writer who had written a book that I found fascinating. He was a pastor, and I thought to myself, how could a pastor write things like about palm wine and things like that? So I just wanted to talk to him. And I wrote to him, and he invited me to a festival in New York. And to cut a long story short, at the festival, I met a gentleman, and I was talking to him, and I told him I had written something that nobody wanted, and he said I should write to him and he will help me. So I was sitting there and I just thought, why don't I just write a different story altogether? And I was thinking of this superstition that I used to have. When I was a child, I myself was scared of frogs. And then I thought to myself, let me just write a short story about a girl who is afraid of turning into a man.
Oh, that's Isi Adjapong, right?
Isi Adjapong.
So you see, I do have an idea.
Yeah, you do.
You should just give me a copy,
absolutely. So I just, so literally I sat in my living room and just poured out 3 chapters.
Wow.
Just like that. And I sent 3 pages to him and I said, hey, this is Bisi. I don't know if you remember me, but here's a book, here's a story I've written just for you to have an idea of what I can do. And if you think my writing is terrible, then I won't bother you again. So I sent it to him, and to my surprise, he wrote back and said, oh yeah, I remember you. This is fantastic. Do you have any more? I said, oh, sure, I do. So I sent him back, I sent him the rest of the pages, and he read, and then he got back to me and said, can I publish it? And then I thought, who are you? So I went to Google him, and I found out that he was actually this Pulitzer Prize-winning author, and not just that, but also was a publisher. See, if I had known, I wouldn't have gone anywhere near him. I would have been too scared. But anyway, that's how it came about. So then, when that story was published, a New York agent read the story and wrote to me and asked me if I had more, because she wanted to represent me. And I lied. I said, oh yes, I do. Actually, I didn't. So I went and sat and then just poured out 50 pages just like that and sent them to her. And she said, oh, I really like it. Let's just keep going. So I said, okay. So the whole thing was a joke when I started, but then it took shape. And then I started to think, okay, this is turning into a book, so let me see where we go from here. And I decided to turn it into a coming of age, an emotional and sexual coming of age of a young girl from childhood into womanhood. Exactly. And that's how the story came to be. So it's really an accidental story.
I guess you're just talented. That's what it is. Because to have to just take the opportunity, grab that opportunity and make it happen that way, you have to have it inside of you.
Yeah, I guess. And also you have to be writing all the time, because there are people who are, I meet lots of people who are talented. I think most people can write, but they don't write. And the more you write, the better you get at it, because there are, little tricks to the game and little ways of expressing yourself. You have to think about timing, when to write a scene, when to hurry it up so that people don't get bored, how to write dialogue so that the dialogue sounds realistic and not heavy, how to just engage a person. This is something you learn. It's kind of like a stand-up comedian. You practice your art, you gauge the audience, and you think, okay. So as I was always writing for people, writing to amuse my friends, I knew what worked and what didn't work, So when be prepared, and when the opportunity comes, then you zoom through it. Because when somebody approaches you or somebody offers you the opportunity and says, right, you don't say, wait a minute, let me go think. No, you have to seize the opportunity, because before you know what, they've forgotten about you. If you wait another month, you write, they go, who are you again? So, yeah.
I mean, your book was rated, I think, top 10 on Amazon. And, I mean, it's doing so well. How do you feel? How do you feel about it?
I'm actually very overwhelmed. Since that time, it's now been top 10 for the Washington Post, top for Boston Globe, for, I don't know, so many publications. There are about 10 of them. And I am completely floored, because this was not the book that I thought was going to make me. As a matter of fact, even this is an accidental. Remember I told you I had written the first book, and that was always the one that was close to my heart. So this one, when it got published by the Nigerians, for me, that was the end of the matter. I had moved on, and I thought, okay, now I've proven myself. Let me resurrect my old novel. I resurrected the old novel, and so my agent didn't want to have anything to do with Of Women and Frogs. But then I had a writer friend who had just been shortlisted for the Booker Prize, and she was talking to an editor about my book. And the editor said, well, I want this book. So without telling my agent, I sneaked behind her back and I emailed the guy directly and sent him the book, because my agent said, look, we're shopping the other one, so you just forget about this one. This one is done. Forget about it. We move on. Well, he read both books, and within 48 hours, he had finished both books. And he just came to me and said, we want both books. And I know you published the other one, but we're going to publish it.
Wow.
And so
was that HarperCollins?
That's HarperCollins. He was an editor with HarperCollins, the executive editor acquiring. And I had just actually he had just transferred from Simon & Schuster to HarperCollins. And he's been tweeting and bragging that that's the first book I acquired, because he took the book. He was actually in transition when he took the book. So it's doing so well that I'm floored. The reason why I was late is because I was actually being interviewed by an American magazine, and it was a Zoom meeting, and it was ending, she started late because she got the timing wrong a little bit, and so we ended right at 8, and I dashed through the door to be here. So that's why we came late.
Well, you're here, and we're glad we have you. So they changed the title to Teller of Secrets, right?
Yes,
and it's still on Amazon, right?
I beg your
Is that
pardon?
still on Amazon? In case somebody
you
wants to
can't
read
get
it.
of Women and Frogs.
Okay.
So you can only because once they bought the rights, we had to pull everything from the bookstores were allowed to sell what they had, but they were not allowed to print. No, the publisher couldn't print anymore, so it's not available anywhere, and everybody is waiting until November 16th. Even I don't have a copy. Exactly. I just have what they call the advanced reader's copy, and I just have one copy. If I thought about it, I would have brought you one, but I just have one.
Well, I'm waiting for it to be released so I can read it.
Yeah, and that one is ugly anyway. It's a little paperback. Yeah. The real thing is this big, beautiful hardback book that that they are sending. We had to change the title, because somebody also got inspired. You know, titles are not copyrighted. Okay. I myself got the Of Women and Frogs. It was inspired by Hemingway. Hemingway wrote Of Mice and Men, so I wrote Of Women and Frogs. Well, this lady in America also decided to publish a book that came out earlier this year, Of Women and Salt, and it was too close to my title. So my publisher felt that if we didn't take care, people who had her book would think it was the same thing and not buy. So we had to change the title. But actually, I like this new title. I think it's intriguing. The Teller of Secrets.
Yeah, I think it's intriguing as well. Well, you being a successful writer or author, if I should say, if somebody's watching and wants to, you know, toe the same line, what would you say really would help as an author? What are some of the practices, or what do they need to do so that they can actually be able to break the ice and be heard, or get a publisher to have a look at their work and all of that?
I think the first thing to do is not think about publication. Because when you think about publication, you get self-conscious and you try to look for subjects that you think are trendy.
True.
The successful writers, they are trendsetters. They write what they want to write.
So originality is key.
Originality is key, but the most important thing to do as a writer is to read. Because reading is how you teach yourself to write. And by reading, what I mean is, you know, read the kinds of books that you would like to write. But don't just read only those. Read broadly. The more you read, the more you start to recognize. And you can, a lot of writing is not really taught. You teach yourself. As you read, you start to ask yourself, what is it that works? How come this worked? What did I like about this? You can read first just for entertainment, and then read again to absorb and to study it. And the more you read, the better you get. In fact, if you read and read and read, you're going to start getting bored very easily. And that is when you become a good writer, because you start to know what doesn't work and what works, you know, and then you write. So reading is key. The other thing too is being willing to learn. For instance, you think you've written a book. When people see the final result, that's not how it started. The final manuscript, I wrote the manuscript maybe about 4 or 5 times. You write a lot. You have to be willing to revise. I think the thing that I noticed here, especially here in Ghana, is somebody writes a first draft, put you know, the final period there. It says, "Yay, I've written a book. Can you read my work?" No, no, no. You have to let it follow. You have to be willing. You have to be humble to realize that what you think is good, the person receiving it may not feel that way. And you have to be willing to, you have to really forget about your ego and put it aside. I listen and I'm prepared to make corrections. It's like, I used to be a teacher. You have to be willing to be a student. You have to be willing when the teacher says, I'm sorry, but this doesn't work. You have to be willing to revise. If you're not willing to do that, then you're not going to be successful, because a good book can take you about 2-3 years to finish writing. Oh, yes. Yes.
Wow.
You write, you revise. Maybe the first draft might take maybe about 3 months, but after that, you let it follow, you go back, you read, you make corrections, you read, and you keep reading. So, yeah, humility. The other thing, too, is to network, to make friends, go to literary events. I mean, this gentleman that invited me, he didn't even know I was writing. I went not because of what I could get from him, because I was just curious about his work. And I went. And he was not even the one I connected with. I connected with a complete stranger that I didn't know, and I talked. And just be willing to meet other writers, to go to, in Ghana here, we are fortunate enough to have the Pedja Literary Festival. This year we had writers from all over the world that came. What a wonderful opportunity. And yet you go there and you're surprised to find only a handful of people show up. All these people that want to be writers that write to me, not a single person was there. But that is how it works, because sometimes you have a good product. And in my case, being at the right place at the right time,
Was what
you know,
helped,
exactly. So be prepared by honing on your skill, and then make opportunities. And when the opportunities, you know, open, when doors open, you just slide right through it and keep marching.
Great. But are you planning on having any sort of mentorship for young or upcoming writers?
That is actually my passion. I think about what Chimamanda has done for Nigeria. I mean, people don't realize this, but a lot of successful writers in Nigeria today, the younger generation, are there because of her workshops. And it's not easy to do. I think a lot of people would like to learn how to write, but they don't. I mean, you're trying to make ends meet. They don't have money to do that. Ayukweyama in Senegal, he lives now in Senegal, he's a Ghanaian, but he has a place where writers can come and work. What I want to do is, hopefully, within the next year or so, I want to be able to get some funding so that writers don't have to pay for any writing workshop and that kind of thing, so that they can also, and bring in not just me, but fellow writers. And that's the beauty, when you make it finally, you have access to writers that normally you wouldn't have access to. So now all these people, I can bring in friends to donate their time to teach. If somebody's a crime novelist, have somebody who wants to do detective, write detective books, write poetry, write fiction, write non-fiction, and that is what I'm really hoping to do. That's a big passion of mine.
I'm really hoping that you do, because there are people that want to write, but it looks like in Ghana there are certain things that you want to do, or certain roads you want to tour as per career-wise. People make it look like it's not reasonable, or it should be a side hustle or something of the sort. So on that note, would you say that writing is something that pays?
That is a very hard question, because obviously there are many. I mean, I write full-time now, but there was a time when I couldn't. The reason why I started late in my writing as far as publication is because when you have to pay the bills, you don't have time to write. But then think about, I don't know if you've heard of this author, Nicholas Sparks. If you watch this movie, The Notebook, that was based on his very first novel. He was writing and making time, like J.K. Rowling was a single parent with 2 children, making time when the kids are sleeping to write. So for many of us, unless you come from a rich home or something, it starts off as a side hustle. But what we have right now is to nurture our youth so that they can make it into a viable profession. But one should take care. Don't go into it for the money, because then you don't write. When you're writing, it's from an authentic place, when it's really coming from your soul, when you're writing from passion and from honesty, it's going to shine no matter what. But if you write only with money in your head, you can misjudge the market, you can misjudge your audience, and you can also write something horrible that nobody wants to read, you know. So
so let me say, if I got you right, what you're saying is it's hard from the beginning because of the time, trying to get your work out there. And so you may not necessarily do it full time, but there's a point in your career you can actually have writing as a career, right?
Yeah, it's not impossible. You know, you can start small. You can start writing with short stories. Short stories, somebody might pay you $150. Somebody might pay you even $50. Somebody might pay you $20. Somebody might pay you $500, and somebody may pay you $1,000. You know, start small, and then you build. It's like building your resume as you write. And the more you write, the better you get at it, and the more you associate with other writers. And usually writers try to help one another. I mean, just like a fellow writer told this editor, "Oh, I've got this friend who's got this book." You know, we help one another. So the thing is to, if we can train our youth, and I'm excited. There are lots of young talent out there. I see that. I just wish people would read more, because unfortunately the reading has gone down.
We do not have a habit to read.
We used to. We used to. It's because the educational system became truncated. And literature, you know, because once they shortened the senior high and you got only, 4 years or 3 years to get through your curriculum, the focus shifts to passing exams. It used to be that the focus was on just enjoying literature, and we read a lot. But it can still be changed. I mean, there was a time when I used to brag that Ghanaians read more than Nigerians, and now it's the opposite. You know, they've outrun us. But over. That's okay. I'm glad that we have our fellow Nigerians are doing very well. I'm glad that we have Kenyans writing.
It's great inspiration.
Exactly. And we just need more writers also from Ghana. I'm the type, I don't feel that there should be just one writer. I would love to see a lot of Ghanaian writers coming up, because there is a lot of talent. We have a lot of intelligent people. So we need to grow the next crop of writers, you know.
Well, because we are about to end the show, I really want you to take this time to give us a message that you probably want to tell people out there, whether it's about your work, your personal life, anything that you have for us before you go off.
What can I say? Always, for me, what has worked for me is I never give up. I'm tenacious, and I believe that you should always, because when writing is a difficult life, it's full of rejection. You're going to be rejected. The first time you submit something to somebody, the person is going to write back and tell you, you can't write and don't send me anything again. People discourage you. Even family members will also say, oh, go and get yourself a good job instead of sitting here writing. You have to be very dogmatic about it. You have to, as in all things, you have to be willing to take rejection. You have to, don't take it personally. You have to develop a very thick skin. Don't take it personally, and just keep working on your craft, because surely, all my friends that I started with, every single one of them has made it as a writer. Different times, but it's okay. It's not about who's going to get there first. It's about eventually getting there. Don't compare yourself to another person. Don't envy another writer. Don't try to, and we do have a few dirty people that try to sabotage somebody else. It's really bad. You have to be supportive, because writing is a very lonely occupation. You spend a lot of time by yourself in order to create. So you have to build, you have to be supportive, and find yourself a community that, it's like fire, right? If you just have one piece of wood, it will soon die. But when you put the wood together, then you can blaze.
Okay. I want to hear you talk, because you said your passion, one of your passions is talking. Did you ever say anything of talk? You talk really well. You hold conversations really nicely, and I'm so glad. It makes me want to go into your head and read all the stories that are yet to come. I just want to say a big thank you for gracing us, but time is on our side. So thank you so much, and thank you to my viewers for tuning in.